Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the delegates who have joined in from various parts of the world today for the World CIO 200 2021 Roadshow. After completing two successful editions in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, today we are here to celebrate the CIOs of Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman. Established in 2017, the CIO 200 is a multi country CIO felicitation ceremony that recognizes the achievements of the digital leaders of today. The CIO 200 Awards is not a competition, but a celebration that celebrates the amazing lives of CIOs and their career span. After touring 26 countries in 2020, the 2021 Roadshow is touring 36 countries. On that note, it gives me great pleasure to call upon Ronak Samantre, the CEO of GEC Media Group, to present the welcome note.
Hello, everyone. Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who have joined and tuned in for the CIO 200 Roadshow. My name is Ronak Samantrai, CEO GEC Media Group. And today we are in the middle of the leg, which is Oman, Qatar, and Kuwait. So today is a very, very interesting day because it's a mix of three countries, and we will be getting to know the landscape and the CIO challenges in these countries. So we have a great line of speakers and panel as well. So definitely it's going to be a very, very interesting day. And yes, we are exactly 2 months from the finale, which is very, very exciting. So I'm sure all the winners would be excited as well because the top of the top CIOs will be joining in for the grand finale in UAE. So all the best winners. And again, thank you to all the sponsors who've been supporting us since the day one and in this great roadshow. So stay tuned and let's have a great day today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronan, for presenting that welcome note. And of course, the journey would not have been possible without the support of our sponsors and partners. So a big shout out to all the partners in the journey, including Infoblots, F5, Exclusive Networks, Laserfish, Veritas, Finesse, and Arkin. Now, I would like to call upon our opening keynote speaker for today's event, and it gives me great pleasure to call upon Hossein Al Nakas, CIO of National Assembly of Kuwait. Hussein, it's a great pleasure to have you on board as our opening keynote speaker. Over to you now.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معاكم أخوكم حسين علي النكاس, CIO at National Assembly of Kuwait. I am in charge for the Information Technology Department. صار لي أنا 5 سنوات في منصب CIO Chief Information Officer بالمجلس. وأكشولي الجوب هذه it's very fun, ومن أفضل jobs that I have ever had. لعدة أسباب, منها إن هذه الوظيفة تتطلب منك إنك ما تكون تعرف التكنولوجي فقط, لكنها شلون تطبقها, how to deploy. اليوم محاضرتي راح تكون عن الأوتلوك of كويت. المتغيرات كثيرة والتطور القادم كبير, والكويت تسعى إلى رؤية 2035. فكجهات حكومية يجب أن نواكب هذا التطوير ونحقق الأهداف الاستراتيجية والأهداف التشغيلية التي تطمح كل جهة حكومية أن تصل لها مستقبلا إن شاء الله. اليوم عندنا الكثير من التحديات والكثير من المعوقات والكثير من المواضيع التي يجب أن نركز عليها حتى نحقق الأهداف المستقبلية. أنا اليوم راح أتكلم عن وراح أركز على موضوعين اللي هو الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن وموضوع الماشين لانجويجز الماشين ليرنينج. راح أركز على موضوع الماشين ليرنينج كتحديات مستقبلية وكتحديات بتبنيها لمواكبة التطور الذي سيحصل مستقبلا. لا يخفى أن في كثير من التحديات التي يجب أن نجتازها. اليوم أنا أمثل جهة حكومية هي جهة برلمانية لديها الكثير من التحديات والتطورات والأهداف الاستراتيجية التي يجب أن نطبقها. اليوم نحن كآي تي من أهدافنا أن نوفر التكنولوجيا، أن نوفر الميكنة، أن نطور الأعمال من الأعمال اليدوية إلى الأعمال الإلكترونية. اليوم عندنا أعمال كثيرة ومتنوعة وأهداف استراتيجية. اليوم احنا في عندنا كCIOs in Kuwait في عندنا الاستجابة السريعة لتغيرات العمل. نحاول نثقف العاملين والمشاركة في إدارة التغيير، المشاركة مع الإدارات المالية في العقود وإنشاء العقود وكتابتها وتحديدها وتحديد الأهداف منها. القيام بشكل دوري، وهذا طبعا الشيء المهم هو القيام بشكل دوري بعملية تحليل التكلفة والكوست بنفيت أناليسيز للمشاريع ولسير العمليات الداخلية وتطويرها. لا ننسى تقييم المشاريع التقنية ووضع التوصيات، هذا من الأعمال المهمة. وأخيرا عندنا طبعا الإشراف على البنية التحتية واقتراح البرمجيات والأنظمة، وهو التوجه العام الحاليا بما يعرف في التحول التقني أو الديجيتال ترانسفورميشن. نحن كجهة حكومية ضمن المنظومة الحكومية لدولة الكويت هناك توجه إلى تبني تكنولوجيا الماشين ليرنينج. Let's understand what's the machine learning. Machine learning is data analytics technique that teach the computers to do what comes naturally by either human or animal, such as learning from experience. Machine learning is algorithm. It's mainly algorithm use computational methods to learn information directly from data without relying on any source. ولتحقيق الهدف من تبني موضوع machine learning يجب على متخذ القرار أو CIO turn their attention to updating المهارات واللي هي to updating talents, business processes, strategies. هذا إلى جانب عملية تبني التكنولوجيا، وهو ما سيكون العائد الكامل لتطبيق هذه الاستراتيجية، والتي بدونها لن يكون هناك أي عائد وسيصطدم CIO بالكثير من العقبات في مجال تطبيقها. What we noticed that the IT organization in general are slow to adopt the new technology so far. CIOs are focusing on fundamental of the industry specific tools, while to continue to make the early investment. Machine learning and automated decision making will be critical as organizations and governments take into a digital transformation. That is the strategic use of technology to improve enterprise performance, customer relationship, processes, product and services. وعلى فكرة I noticed أن CIO are increasing في الانفستمنت على والاتجاه إلى الماشين ليرنينج، لكن معظم العوائد التي سيجنيها أي CIO من هذا الاستثمار في مجال الماشين ليرنينج راح يواجه العديد من العقبات، ولكن سيكون منها التطوير ومنها التكلفة المالية العالية وتحقيق الأهداف المطلوبة أو المرجوة. الكونكلوجن أو الخلاصة اللي احنا نقدر نوصل لها الحين إن machine language promises the remark business model across sector as algorithm identify and solve problems faster than a human employees ever could. بالختام أحب أشكر على حسن إنصاتكم، وإن شاء الله أكون يعني قدمت مادة بسيطة، يعني حاولت أنا أختصر وحاولت أوصل للنقطة، وإن شاء الله اللكشر هذه كانت ممتازة والهدف منها الاستفادة. شكرا لكم على إنصاتكم. شكرا.
Thank you so much, Hussein, for that amazing presentation and the opening keynote. And as always, it's an honor to have you as a part of our events. Thank you so much. On that note, it's time to call upon our next speaker of the day, and it gives me utmost pleasure to welcome Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP and Microsoft Certified Trainer. Over to you, Andy.
Hi there, welcome along to my session. I'm Andy Malone. I'm a Microsoft MVP as well as a Microsoft Certified Trainer. You know, about over 25 years in the IT industry and cybersecurity. And there's no doubt that the coronavirus pandemic over the last year and a half has had a major impact on the way we do business and the way that we work, in fact. So in this short session, what I'm going to talk about are some of those changes and how they've impacted us and how, as information security professionals, we can step forward. Now, in 2020, the world became familiar with the reality of having to work at home. So, you know, products like Zoom, Microsoft Teams exploded. And working in the cloud has become a new normal. And for companies who have hybrid solutions or who have on-premises solutions, have had to adjust actually to this new reality. So what I want to talk about today are just some of the challenges that as information security pros we're going to have to face forward in obviously returning to some kind of normality. And those are huge. I mean, I'm here in the UK, and recently we've had Brexit, we've had the coronavirus crisis, and this has created a perfect storm of problems. So, i.e., you can't get enough people to perform tasks, there's not enough employees, all of which can potentially have an impact on information security. Also, over the last year or so, cyber criminals have really kind of evolved and moved forward with new attack vectors. Ransomware, for example, social engineering attacks have exploded over 300-400%. And they're finding new ways to attack, receiving text messages, for example, as well as traditional kind of email phishing attacks. So text messaging, phone calls, new vectors of attacks, and we have to be prepared for that. We have to be able to defend against that. So how do we do that? How do we defend? I think a really important way that we can do that is through training. From the very beginning, remember, we're in the business of information security. So not just cyber security, but information security has many, many different attack vectors. So right from the moment of hiring somebody, that whole process of hiring somebody, getting them trained, getting them signed on with things like, you know, acceptable usage policies, and terms and conditions of employment can have a really, really important role to play. Also, inductions. So induction, you know, taking an employee right from zero to hero within your organization is so important. Now, I'm sure we all have a corporate security policy. We all have sets of procedures that we need to follow. And we do this for a whole bunch of reasons. We do it for health and safety, we do it for security reasons, and we also do it for industry compliance. So perhaps ISO 27001, perhaps you're in the oil and gas industry, aviation, and so on. So we all have regulations that we need to adhere to, not just for health and safety, but for operational reasons as well. So I also mentioned the hybrid world of work at the beginning, and this is really what we're in. Many companies around 10 years ago started that slow shift towards the cloud. So, installing products like Azure AD Connect and connecting your Active Directory, your on-premises infrastructure, and opening that up to the world had a number of potential security risks in itself. And those security risks in 2020 and 2021 are really starting to come forward now. And we're seeing a whole bunch of new attacks on-premises. Why is this happening? It's happening because how many people are we taking on? We're taking on youngsters, the next generation of cloud professionals. And I'm a trainer, and all I'm training nowadays is cloud. Employees want to know about Microsoft 365. They want to know about Azure, Amazon, Google Cloud. The problem with this is it's leaving a vacuum, if you will. If you're going into the hybrid world, then potentially we have a vacuum of untrained people who don't know about on-premises environment. So I think in a hybrid solution, if you don't have a way to move forward in that world, then I think there are potential security risks to be found in the future. So again, that's something to think about. Not just protecting your infrastructure, keeping it updated, patching, antivirus, all of that. But I also think your people skills need to be updated as well. Social engineering has become a major tool for hackers and cyber criminals worldwide. And again, I think some of the technologies to help defend against that, this year we've had tools in the cloud such as the Microsoft Defender. And Microsoft Defender's got a fantastic attack simulator. And these types of tools are fantastic for training staff in defending against social engineering attacks such as ransomware and phishing. Microsoft also has been on board with something called data immutability. In fact, many cloud service providers are really realizing that this is really important. So you may have heard the buzzwords zero trust, Microsoft's idea of combining identity with identity protection, as well as products like Windows Defender or Microsoft Defender. And the idea is that they did a survey of many of their customers, and I think it came out with something like 70-80% of their customers had reported that with traditional IT, many of them had discovered that they'd been attacked by cyber criminals, hackers, and so on. So what we're trying to get to that point now in the industry, I think, where even if the cyber criminal does get access to your network, does get access to your files, they're useless because they're encrypted, or you're using tools like information protection, rights management, and so on. And that is a definite deterrent. So as well as teaching staff to do all the usual things like patching and updates and so on, I think it's really important that we remember these new trends and keeping up to date with things. Again, hackers don't sleep, and again, technology doesn't sleep. So what are my predictions for the next couple of years? Well, AI is becoming big. Automation is becoming big. And if you want to use it, if you're going to use it, you can bet your bottom dollar that the bad guys are going to use this technology as well. So again, we have to have good, solid defense strategies. And I'm not convinced that defense strategies are completely technical either. I think we're in the business, remember, of information security. So I think it's so important that organizations have a good, strong security policy. And from that policies, you have good sets of procedures. And I think it's important that training and awareness for how and why these policies work is so important amongst staff. Okay, I think it's really important that staff understand why we're doing something, what's the reason behind something. And again, as a Chief Security Information Officer, that's part of your role. So I really hope that you've just found this quick 10-minute introductory session to be interesting. And as I say, I'm sorry I can't be there at your conference, and I really hope that you have a fantastic time. Please feel free to visit me at my website, andymalone.org, and you can also see me on YouTube as well. All right, so thank you very much for attending my session, and have a great time.
Thank you, Andy, for that amazing session and great key takeaways. Fantastic. And now moving on, it's time for our partner keynote on the Technology Outlook 2022. And to present the session, I would like to call upon Ahmed Farid, Territory Account Manager, Infoblox, to come and talk about how Infoblox have been transforming the tech landscape. Over to you, Ahmed.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for attending today's event, CIO 200 Oman edition. It's a pleasure being here. I will be talking to you for around 15 minutes regarding digital transformation. Let me introduce myself first. This is Ahmed Farid, Territory Account Manager from Infoblox. I'm handling Oman, Kuwait, and Bahrain. Again, it's a pleasure being with you. Give me 15 minutes out of your busy schedule today, and I will try to make it useful as possible. Thank you. So today's agenda will be, we will talk about the digital transformation journey, how our organizations today are shifting and transforming into digital way of doing business, why you are doing this, what are the drivers, what are the main drivers pushing organizations to do that. We will check around the edges of the business now, branches, working from home users, and how business are shifting to be focusing on the edge. Then we will talk about how this impacts the security and operation teams, what more liabilities and tasks they need to do, and how we can fix this. We will talk about extending the protection and security once we shift into the digital era, and how we improve our overall customer experience. So digital transformation is not a word we just say, it's a fact. We can see it around us everywhere. Customers now have the ability to know everything about us by only a matter of some clicks. So he will know exactly what we are doing, and of course, he will know also about our competition. He can compare, he can see what is good, what is bad, and he can choose without even talking to us. So we need to be ready. Our organizations need to provide better customer experience, to gain this customer, to retain our own customers, and to win new customers from our competition. And by the way, this applies to every and each sector, like even government. There is a competition now. There is government entities need to prove they are providing good services, and countries are competing against each other, providing better services to their citizens. So first thing is customer experience is very important. We need to enhance it. Secondly, as you know, business should and have to grow all the time. So we need to penetrate new markets. To do this, being digital, being light, providing your services faster, having the agility to expand and to provide the services different places, different ways, adapting these services to different customers in different locations will give you the benefit, the advantage, will differentiate yourself from other organizations. So logistically, we need to be agile. We need to be have the flexibility let's say, shut down a branch, open another branch in another location, shifting our business, majority of our business to be relocated. This is happening all the time now. So those are main drivers why our organizations are trying to transform into having digital way of providing our services to our customers. But this doesn't come free. This has the impact, and it has effects on many aspects. So let's say we are adapting our cloud, our SaaS. We are providing solutions over the cloud. So of course, this will affect our security. We are more vulnerable. We are doing our business in the enemy field. We are closer to the customers, but in the same time, we are closer to the attackers, to the hackers, to the problems, which we were avoiding before by having our own border with the firewall or a security guard on the top of it, avoiding anyone from outsiders to come inside. But this is not the way anymore. We are now doing the business everywhere, from anywhere, with a different type of access. We will come to this in the next slide. Also, for once we adopt the SDN, the SD-WAN, those technology, once we adopt this, we are closer to the customer. We have faster services. We are providing more flexible services, but at the same time, it is hard, it is expensive to secure all those points. To provide the security till the edge, it's not like providing a security over our headquarters as before. So this is another challenge we need to face. So once we have bring your own device, once you have IoT, Internet of Things, all those terminologies you are hearing, all our organizations are already in this era today. So we are providing, we have our laptops, our mobile phones, our devices, our cameras, even our every single device connected to the internet having an IP address is an attack vector now. So we need to protect it. But unfortunately, some of those devices, we cannot even protect it. We cannot even install patches or security softwares into these devices. So we need to find some other way to have the full security integrated in all our environments for the customer to feel smooth security platform without having to identify from where and or how he is accessing the network. Same policy, same security, same safety, regardless of from where and when he is accessing the services, for having the services from the organization. What we are talking about is a wider service, wider attack services. We have more points to come in and more points to get out. As I said, we have too many devices, too many protocols, applications, different timing even. We are serving different countries. So it is not anymore controlled. It is more burden on the security operation team and even the network teams, the applications. Everything is faster, everything is agile, everything is mobile. Suddenly in a day we should be ready to shift or to mitigate some sort of attacks and risks. So to do this, we cannot rely anymore on a central security solution like we used to do before. So another attacks, something like ransomwares are everywhere. Some ransomware are rising, and this is I see it a natural result of where we reach. Once the attack surface is wider, attackers have more to do. It's more easy to them to attack and to penetrate. Let's say 20 years back, for an attacker to target an organization, he needs to see the public IP of this organization, which firewall is behind this, and he will start trying to attack this firewall. Today, he can attack through a camera. He can attack through a mobile. He has too many other options to do. So more attackers are there, and the percentage or the possibility of having breach is much more than before. And not only ransomware, we have also malwares. Too many malwares are there, and mainly they are using the DNS. DNS as an infrastructure foundational protocol. It is very good prospect and vector for those attacks. And I'm sure everyone is hearing about the losses and how much the cost of those attacks are being around the globe, everywhere. Regardless of the sector of the country, of how advanced are the security measures are there, but still ransomware, malwares are hitting everywhere and every organization. Let's go not only security, not only from the security point of view, but also operationally. We have a headache. We have a lot of to do. Having too many security solutions in place. This is what happened actually, like in the last 10-20 years. Every day we are hearing we need to use an endpoint solution. We need to use a SIEM solution, then orchestration solution, then we need to use a firewall, sandboxing, all those kind of security solutions. But still, it is somehow isolated. The database is not migrated. The source of information is not integrated into one database, so we can find the truth and collectively find a solution for any problem. And of course, as a consequence to this, we have too many alerts. We have too many notifications coming from different sources of security and of operationally over our organization environment. This needs, again, skilled resources to deal with it. This needs a lot of resources, technical resources, security resources, which is actually not available as per the researches in the market. We have almost like 50% or less from the required skilled resources to deal with security problems happening around us. So we need to do it manual till now, as it is not integrated. So we have to check each and every alert. We need to integrate it ourselves and to check how it is connected, what are the relations to reach to the point where is malware is available, what happened inside the network, how it started, how it is moving, and where it reaches, and eventually solve the problem. Some other facts will actually may shock us, like what I'm talking about here is not going to an end. And even it didn't reach the top yet. These are increasing. IoT devices are increasing. We will reach around 125 billion devices connected to the internet by end of this year. We will have like around 50% of organizations adapting SD-WAN by the end of this year. By 2030, 80% of the applications will be based on cloud. So it's serious. It is really serious. We need to, our organizations need to find some different way managing those problems and threats and challenges. So let's brief it. What we actually face, we need to have the visibility. We need to have the automation. We need to have a central visibility of everything of our network, our spread network, and we need to automate the action. Once we see an attack, a breach, our response, as much as we can, should be automated, not to waste any more time. Every minute counts. So we need to protect our edges. Edge is very important now. We are providing our services till the closest point to the customer. So we need our security to reach there somehow. And we eventually want to, of course, reduce the cost. Security are costing organizations too much. So while we are doing this, we need to take into our consideration that cost should be less as well. So what is the solution? In simple English words, it's everything about integration. It's about exchange the information, unify the database of everything, of the incoming data, of the collected alerts and the notification and integrate our action, our response to the alerts and the notifications. So this will reduce the remediation time by 2/3 at least, instead of manually doing the getting the relation between the alerts, collecting them all, and try to integrate between them. This will be done automatically. Once it is automated, once database is integrated, our resolution time will be much less. So it will save us hiring more skilled resources, which will be a very good benefit for all our organizations from security point of view and from operation and mandate point of view. Some solutions like SIM, SOAR, those central solutions collecting information will be working much more efficient. Our ROI from security solutions will be much higher. That's why we need a foundational security solution. Something like DDI solutions, which are having all the information about DHCP, DNS, and IPs collectively integrated in single database, and it is touching each and every location and area of the network. This will give you the visibility, and once it is integrating with the ecosystems in place, it will give us also the automation. Once we have the visibility and automation, the remediation time and the cost will be much, much less than it was before. So it's all about integrating the source of the information you are receiving, instead of having too many feeds, too many different feeds coming from different vendors, but it is in siloed, it is not related, it is not integrated. This having a central solution to integrate all these data will, of course, help reducing the mandates required from those skilled resources to manage the security alerts. Secondly, integrating with ecosystem, like once you have a solution feeding the firewall, the sandbox, the email security, each and every solution in your network, this integration with the ecosystem will reduce the remediation time big time. And finally, once you have the threat intelligence being managed centrally by integrating all the solutions together, something like SIM and SOC will work much more efficiently with less time, less cost, and more accuracy of triggering the exact problems and the exact points to take an action. And this action, of course, will be automated, as we mentioned before. So I hope it was clear. It was to the point. It's a very simple. Digital transformation is a must. It's a fact. It's a reality we are living now, but we cannot rush to shift into digital life without having the correct and appropriate measures and our plan to mitigate and secure our infrastructure, giving the customer better experience while having the same security policies and even better. Thank you so much for listening. It was great meeting you all today. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the event. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Fareed, for the fantastic session and amazing takeaways for our delegates. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our famous cross-border panel discussion now. As you might know, it's initiated in 2020. The cross-border panel of CIO 200 shot to fame in very less time. The unique flavor that this panel brings is extraordinary, as CIOs from 4 different countries join in to discuss how technology has been a game changer for them and redefine in true sense that how technology knows no border or boundaries. In today's cross-border panel, we have Dr. Sunil Pandey, Institute of Technology and Science, Ghaziabad, India; Praful Tomar, Jazeera Airways, Kuwait; Umesh Mulchandani, Bin Dasmal Group from UAE; Zubair Elahi, Apna Microfinance Bank, from Pakistan. I would like to hand over the stage to Arun Shankar, editor of Media GAC Media Group, to moderate the panel. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you, Gurleen, for the various introductions. Good day, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Continuing with the success of 2020, where we hosted 104 leading CIOs in our cross-border panel discussion, we are pleased to move forward with this initiative in 2021 as well, inviting the top CIOs to participate in our cross-border panel discussion. As part of the World CIO 200 Roadshow 2021, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar edition, and on behalf of Global CIO Forum and its sponsor partners, I welcome the panelists here with me to this cross-border panel on leadership in the post-pandemic era. And what will drive leadership in this post-pandemic recovery phase for the next 12 to 24 months. So let us begin. We will have 3 rounds of discussion with the panelists here across the next 45 minutes. We are going to discuss about how businesses have led their technology heads to revamp infrastructure and application, and now they're looking at vastly improved customer experience, higher returns from sales, business resilience, and business continuity. So let's start with the questions for the panelists. I'd like to start with you, Zubair. You have a long baseline in banking, working with the bank Al Falah and recently Apna Microfinance. So you have a good understanding of the dynamics between business and IT. So give us an idea, what were your killer applications and killer technologies in the last 18 to 24 months, if I can call them killer, which really helped to get your business through these very challenging times. Any thoughts on that? Anything which you can share? Go ahead, Zubair.
Sure. Thank you for providing me this opportunity over here. First of all, I would like to give a brief, initially, rather talking about the application directly. I would say after this pandemic, the DNA of leadership has been totally changed. Initially we were always looking at the CEOs or operation heads to get a drive in which direction we need to move. But after this pandemic, everybody is looking at the IT, technology. They want the innovation. They want the cost effective. They want the controls. They want to simulate many things by sitting in far longer areas. So it is not only a challenge, but a very good thing to hear that. Being the IT head or CIO of a company, I'm glad to drive these things, from by leading from the front. Now I would say that leadership, it was used to be totally different ball game before this pandemic. Now I would say the e-leadership is there, or hybrid leadership has been introduced, because your staff, half of your staff is working from home, and there are different pandemic policies or regulations in different countries. But most of the things are like quite same in all over the world. And this was the challenge, that how to control these staffs, not only by controlling the security measures that they are connecting to the companies from their locations, but also to maintain their interest, maintain their regulatory regulations, so that they don't get out of the routine of being the part of organization or being employed. So these challenges were, initially it was very hard, because the shift was very paradigm shift, and it was a very quick shift. So it was not easy to cope up with it initially, but we learned from it, and management supported. And now we are on the move, we are on the pace with the smoothly towards that we can manage these things remotely. As far as technology is concerned, which enabled my organization to get the benefit or the killer technology in your terms, it was the digitization of account onboarding. The relation of any customer starts with the account with the bank, if I talk about banking sector particularly, and that relation is much more important than any other activities of the customer in the branch. And our regulator is very much focused on it. The compliance are quite strict, and if we just evaluate or just look into the things, that most of the problems occurred
due to the regulations which was not healthy or which was not done on the proper grounds given by the regulator or your policy accordingly. So it is very important. So what we did that we started onboarding our customer digitally, even they're at home, so they can open an account by sitting there at home. So this is now the State Bank is very much into it. They've also over here the regulator they are supporting it, they are fully focusing it, and they are asking the banks to do these kind of measures. And the second big thing what we did is it was the launch of internet and mobile banking. We being a microfinance bank, we are not that big bank, and definitely the appetite of digitization is not much there. But contrary, we had to reduce the cost of onboarding and increase the reach to our customer by not expanding much, by not doing the capital expenditure. So the idea was to, being the one leading from the front, I had to keep this in mind, that there should not be much of the cost involved by launching any product or any new application or any new procedural stuff, which would lately affect contrary by increasing the expense. That is the gray area which needs to be addressed all the time. And being a smaller bank as well, and generally one should focus on it. So by launching the internet and mobile banking, we reduced the footfall of our customer and gave an ease to the customer to do the transaction remotely from their home, from any of the places. And this we seek a very positive response in it, and the customer was quite intact. They were very happy. Naturally, we were not the pioneer by launching this. There were many other applications, but we had a benefit that we get the crux from all the applications and put in by optimize our application, which was smooth, easy to understand, and quite flexible in it. So these were the two areas which were introduced by the technology, by IT in the bank, and we are going to do much more. We haven't stopped, and because now it has become inevitable to do the technology growth by introducing the application, not the conventional IT. Now the IT is a business basically. Now IT drives the business of the bank. They give the direction. CIOs are being me myself. Now I am the one who is initiating any new product by giving them that this is the system we can launch, and we can get the maximum benefit. We can get the revenues out of it. So it is very good for me to be the part of management like this, to contribute by generating new revenue streams. And we are lined up with quite a couple of new applications as well, which would naturally help my bank to reduce the cost and increase the customer engagement.
Sorry. So the killer application, the killer technology would have been digitization, the onboarding, the whole onboarding process. And just to cross-check over there, you mentioned about reporting. So when the employees were all remote, how were you actually do the remoting? Was it some sort of morning, evening type of Zoom call? Was it some sort of sign in or something like that? What was the reporting?
You cannot diversify much in reporting mechanism across the world. We all seek that there's always a way out of reporting things. So it was the first thing what we did. We gave a proper a learning to the staff that how to get on board, and gave a proper leverage to them. We didn't push them to the wall that you have to do this thing. So being IT, first of all, I'll let you know that work from home for me as an IT person and my department was not at all there. So we were we were there 24/7 here. Rather, we were doing things on stretch basis, that we had to introduce many things and on war footing basis. So we were burning the midnight oils. But yes, for the rest of who were the operational part and things like that. So we introduced a simple mechanism of being you have to log in. We gave them a login. We gave them a system which was in-house developed, to onboard, and everyone has a password, and that was secured pathway to approach the bank. We need to keep the security aspect as well. So it is, then the rest was on the honesty of the person. So we had to believe it.
Very interesting. Thank you, Zubair. So Umesh, I'd like to move over to you now. Now, Bin Dasmal Group, engineering group. So obviously we saw a lot of ups and downs in construction and engineering in 2020 during the pandemic. Also, I see you have considerable formal education in, let's say, leadership and management. So from your point of view, what were the sort of steps that you had to take inside your organization in terms of technologies or any other process changes or things like that to cope with those challenges that the engineering sector was facing during that time? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Arun, for having me in this discussion. As you rightly said, Bin Dasmal Group is a diversified group of companies, and we are basically into the verticals which are associated with mostly with the construction industry. So we are into manufacturing space, into sales and distribution, contracting, services. So if we see that technological part, we use various applications, various tools to communicate within the organization and with customers and suppliers. Now, most important tool for us is our core business application, which is an ERP application and CRM application. And along with that is our email communications, which goes with the customers internally and with the suppliers. I would say that our leadership had understood the cloud technology quite early on, and they adopted it very quickly. From 2011 onwards, we have been using our email infrastructure in the cloud. So we are one of the early adopters of cloud technologies in our business environment. And as far as our business applications are concerned, just before the pandemic, we had shifted our ERP and CRM applications from on-premise to the cloud infrastructure. So we have been using our ERP and CRM in infrastructure as a service and a platform as a service. And we have some other applications like field service management and service-related applications which are on the SaaS model. So some of our infrastructure is maintained in-house for using regular file servers and other housekeeping utility servers within the premise. And our core applications and core utilities are used on the cloud. So we have been maintaining the hybrid environment for quite a long time. And as the pandemic started, we had the main challenge of how we enable the workforce to work remotely. So for that also, we have been using remote work for the people who were into sales or who were traveling outside and who were demanding sometimes to connect to the office network and work remotely for some time. So we did have the infrastructure in place. It just needed to be scaled out as per the requirement arose. Now, as the pandemic started, the first thing was to how to enable it at the scale and how secure it would be. So our main concern was to provide the connectivity to our people, to our employees in a secure manner, so that our data, our assets, our servers, they are not exposed to the threats outside. We had collaborated with business units for this, and we had taken into consideration the types of devices they are using to connect remotely. Some people were using laptops, some people were using desktops, some people were using tablets and mobiles. So we had to evaluate the threats according to the device type and then provide the connectivity based on that. So it was a very exhaustive exercise to get the configuration of all the devices, and then based on the role of the person who is going to connect remotely, to analyze which kind of environment we have to provide them and how we have to provide them the secure access. So I would say that our core applications and our infrastructure for remote workforce enablement was already in place. We had to enable it. We have to scale it out to the extent when the pandemic started. So that was a challenge which we had to go through, and our management and our business people, they were quick to provide the decision making, and we were able to do it.
So very interesting, and obviously the killer applications being SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. So it's very nice to know that the Bin Dasmal Group is using ERP and CRM from the cloud, and quite a mature way of working, and very interesting about the challenges of mapping all the devices and the policies on security. So great work over there. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's move to you now, Praful. So Praful, as I can see, very long baseline in Al Jazeera and the airlines before that with Air India and CMS Infosystems. So obviously you understand the complete business dynamics of the let me say civil aviation, if I can put it like that. And the transportation, airlines, aviation was definitely a sector which was really impacted in the last 18 to 24 months, and you are now in the ramp up stage. So what were the key technology changes, transformations that you had to do to align and keep business moving, although it was highly challenged? Go ahead, Praful.
Thank you, Arun, for this invitation, as well as putting that right question, because as you rightly said, the airline and the travel industry were having the heaviest toll during this last 18 months. So even to go to some extent, I would say that at one point, it was even the case of sustaining the business. And I'm happy that we have overcome that situation very positively as a team. There were continuous challenges in the new forms across the business departments. And as Zubair said, everybody looking at the IT for the solutions, because this was the time when people could not meet their teams to give different instructions or the ideas. So I believe the two major things or the technologies which helped us as an airline to move forward, the most important is the collaboration tools, and the second is on the process automations. Because as an airline industry and the operations, the continuous collaboration with different teams is very critical, as when you have the passengers on ground, you can't wait for someone not to provide right information. So collaboration was one of the very important part. And there were a lot of fear during the pandemic time when people do not want to gather in a bigger numbers, or at the same time do not want to have a physical interaction with different people. And that is where the, you can say, touchless travel kind of a concept, wherein people do not want even to touch the papers to verify those PCR certificates and their travel documents and all the stuff. So that is one aspect wherein all the check-in agents or the operation staff or even the customers want to have something which enables them a safe travel. So going on to the earlier stage wherein we had to answer back to the challenges of the business in the initial period of COVID, wherein we had to work with limited budget, as the airline industry, the cash flow was bare minimum. Resources were working all remotely, and we had to provide the solutions at the speed of light. And one more factor which came in during this period is the government entities. Usually, the airline operations are managed by the airlines end to end, except those immigration and custom checkpoints. This particular period, one more new entity which came into picture is the Ministry of Health, and they were very stringent on their procedures as well as the compliance guidelines. So the integration with their system was like, if you ask me before pandemic period, it was like a no-go. They will not open their systems for any data interchange, exchange. And this time, that was something which came out as a very positive thing. And we had to provide deep integrations within to their systems with the passenger information, with the passenger other travel documents and all related items. So we had to actually think out of the box for many of the solutions. I'll give you an example. Usually the airport operations, you must have seen people talking on the walkie-talkies. Now, walkie-talkies has certain limitations in the distance. So we had to think that how we can enhance this when people are spread across the country remotely, and how they would collaborate. So then we came across this telecom with push to talk over the 4G network. So it broke all the distance limitations and any barrier. So this kind of items wherein the IT inputs were very, very critical, and IT leadership had to think very differently than what we used to think earlier. So these were some of the challenges and the responses to the situation we had to provide, I would say.
So very interesting over there, especially the part about the collaboration and the process automation. But one question that keeps coming up for the airlines was the amount of refunds and reticketing. Did you have to modify the financial applications of the passenger reservation system to take the scale? Because we heard, from a lot of airlines about the large number of backlog in, the refunds and all that. Did you have to make any modifications to your core applications for that? Go ahead, Praful.
So we could not modify these core applications, but at the same time, we did a lot of enhancements to the internal applications, wherein we pull out the data directly from the reservation system, analyze it, understand which all refund requests have come from the passengers, cancel those segments directly on the reservation system, and putting the data directly onto the financial system. So we had to create a middleware which used to do all the functions automatically. I mean, that really reduced the load on the call center as well as the finance, because this was the period when everybody were anxious to get the information from call center and the call center working at a limited capacity due to, again, the same physical constraints. So this middleware and the applications which we had to roll out at a record time, that was something, as Zubair said, burning the midnight oil works well for IT. Goes same everywhere.
So very interesting. I mean, it's almost as if the airlines were functioning like a banking application based on the huge number of transactions which were, like you said, moving from this side or that side. So thank you for those inputs, Praful. Very interesting over there. So I'd like to come to you, Dr. Sunil, the last in the line. And Dr. Sunil, you have been in the formal, if I should say, academic side. You have a PhD in computer science, which is quite rare. And if you were in the commercial side, I'm quite sure you could have leveraged that quite interestingly. But I guess you're slightly on the academic side. Can you give us an idea of how things have looked like in the technology institutes? Go ahead, please, Dr. Sunil.
Thank you, Ranjit. Good evening, everyone present in this very wonderful session. In fact, academics was something probably which was impacted the most, because in every business vertical, people up to some extent were ready with their IT digitization, and they were working on the processes since long. But in academics, no, and that too in formal education, where full-time programs, whether graduation or post-graduation or doctoral level programs are offered, no one even would have thought of that all these full-time courses are going to be offered in online mode. And that was probably the biggest challenge. At most of the places, you will appreciate that video conferencing is something which is common in industry, other verticals. But in academia, this video conferencing is something which is considered to be a luxury. But since we installed this video conference facility way back in 2008, so at least we were having that edge that our faculty members were using these video conferencing to communicate, to take sessions, sometimes even when they are on off. So this in this pandemic scenario, the biggest challenge was to keep things on, because this was something which we could not afford to keep on hold for a longer duration. I still remember it was 17th of March when in the state of UP in India, the lockdown was imposed initially for 3 weeks. And then subsequently on 22nd March, our Honorable Prime Minister announced that countrywide lockdown was imposed. So we had just 24 to 40 hours, 48 hours to do all those things so that academics could continue. And when we got this information, because university was in no way ready to keep things on hold, our stakeholders, we started getting calls from parents, from students, that how things are going to continue like that, because ultimately they had to write their examinations too after 2 months' time. So thanks to my team of faculty, thanks to these students, that we started conducting training programs, and just in 24 hours, we trained our all faculty members. We had to train these students because 3,000 odd students, around 50 odd sections. Initially, getting connected on digital platform was an entirely new experience. There were certain challenges which were forcing us to go for more number of sessions and make people comfortable. But we were probably the first institution in the entire state of UP who migrated on digital platform within 48 hours. Now, conducting course was something which was a bit easier, because as Professor was mentioning, that the collaboration tools were available. We were using it for last almost 10 years. So people found it easier to migrate on it. But then the biggest challenge was how to go for evaluation and assessment. Because ultimately assessment had to be done, evaluation had to be done. And then during that assessment process, that examination process, we didn't have that luxury to go for proctored examination. So we tried to find out certain LMSs, and then we went for auto-proctored examinations with the application of AI up to some extent. And that's how probably we were able to deliver what we are expected for. So the technology which helped us in this entire process was, of course, number one was the collaboration tool, which at least started things going on. Then we have our infrastructure on cloud. So that cloud migration on cloud well in time was something which was really very helpful. We were able to extend the facility. We were able to extend all these required infrastructure to the faculty, to the students, so that they could connect, they could get the contents on demand. I will not, on demand will not be the right word to use, but at least on their the flexibility was there. Whenever they wanted, everything was available. And then, of course, this AI and machine learning based systems in conducting the examination, online examinations, was something which helped us in keeping ball rolling. And 1.5 years back, the things which used to be normal, now when things are settling down, now people have started coming to the premise. Even students, limited movement have started in campus. We see those old normals are being redefined. This the learnings of this 1.5 years, it has created a kind of awareness which otherwise would have taken about a decade or more than a decade. So that massive awareness about technology, availability of different tools, the systems, and that readiness of academic institution, though it was compulsion, it was forced, but now everyone has realized the taste of these technologies and these principles. And that's what are going to remain there, even if everything backs to normal. At least now every institute is ready to follow the blended learning, where some major part would be in conventional mode, but some part would be in online mode, because it helps us reaching out to the people, the guests who are here. If I request someone out of this panel to address to our faculty or interact with our faculty, at least this online platform helps that without any physical movement, we still can communicate. So that blended learning at least is going to be the outcome of this entire process, which every institution, even if they would not have thought of going for digitization, they would also be staying back with that.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil. Very interesting. I just want to discuss one point over here. During the examination and evaluation, how were you identifying the correct student? And you mentioned something about AI. How was that verification done? Go ahead, please.
Yeah. The one thing, we formed smaller groups of students, and every student was asked to keep their camera on. And then the application, the LMS we use for the evaluation process, that application has that feature that if certain movement of his eyes goes out of certain degree, that is beyond the screen, it immediately comes up with a warning that this movement is not allowed. And after 3 warnings, automatically it forces students to log out. So initially, when a few students experience this kind of process, then message was very clear among all that these things are not going to work. So this helped us largely to keep things on.
So very, very fascinating. And I'm sure I would have liked to continue discussing this, but we need to continue with the objectives of the panel. So I'd like to move to the second round of discussion, and coming back to you, Zubair. Now, Zubair, all of us have worked as technology heads, have worked closely with the business. And obviously during these last 18, 24 months, like Dr. Sunil was saying, a huge amount of awareness change, a situational awareness as to what is successful, how to collaborate, how to take decisions together. So from your point of view in your organization over there, what were the sort of changes that you had to do or business had to do to collaborate and come out in a much more effective fashion with technology? Go ahead, Zubair.
Well, yes, I would say that technology, being the main business of any company, is okay. They keep on investing in it, but in other organizations, technology was always considered as a supporting role. They were not given that much of the budget. They were always asked, you should keep your things quite tight, and but keep on doing things on a in a slower pace. But after this pandemic, the business, every eye was, as Praful was said, every eye was on the IT side. What are they doing? What are they coming up with? And the major role was also played by the regulator over here in Pakistan. In banking sector particularly, if I would say that technology is there, banks are investing in it, but the pace is not that much there unless until the regulator give them a push. So during this pandemic, they played a very vital role, and that inculcated in our organization simultaneously. It was a very big change, and we had to do very emergency kind of years during this pandemic, because there was a challenge that the people were not able to come to the offices due to lockdown, and the health issues, and you have to maintain the certain pandemic measures. So there were quite challenges. So the business came up with that, how to continue the business, how to do things. As earlier it was mentioned by one of the participants that the cloud technology they used, but over here there are certain restrictions about cloud technologies. Banking sector, they are not allowed to do the cloud. They are not allowed to cloud technology apart from 1 or 2 particular applications, or non-banking application, maybe I would say in general terms. So in non-banking applications, you can say that it's a WhatsApp banking, which is recently introduced in Pakistan, or the email, you would say that it's a non-banking application. So these are the things which can be kept on cloud, and it was also allowed for the last 1 year. Previously, everything has to be on prime. So the cost of managing it, cost of having it was too much high. But now State Bank is moving towards that things should be moved on cloud, and they're just testing for the core banking and the other mainframe technologies, so applications which should be run on the cloud. I'm sure they would they would take this decision quite quickly now. But in my organization, it was a challenge, how to run these things by putting all things together. Management came to us, and they were like, initially what happens, the core committees were performed, which were meeting on the regular times, and they were seeing the technology implications or technology gaps which needs to be filled immediately. Naturally, there was a need of an investment in it, but what we had it, we came up with an optimal solutions. So it was like it was a challenge, but by moving towards it slowly and gradually, now we are quite matured. Management said that we need to keep the first thing was the business bow, and it needs to be going on. And so we managed that. We had different conferencing solutions, as Dr. Sunil mentioned earlier. We had it in our premises, but it is quite easy because we, being the bank, we are equipped with the gadgets, internet devices. But again, the challenge was that how to maintain the security so that there would not be any leakage, because the quite a hacking incidents are going on across the world nowadays as the technology is growing too. So I would say the challenge was there, how to keep the cost intact, how to keep the business going on. And yes, but now we are immune to it, we are used to it, and we are living with it. And they're seeing the benefit out of it.
Okay, great, Zubair. I'll just like to cut short a little bit because we're going to be running out of time very fast, and I do want to get inputs in from the others. So, Umesh, over to you. 2 minutes, please, if we can get the answer. Your collaboration with business, what changed? How was it effective? Go ahead, Umesh.
Yeah, so as I said earlier also, and as Zubair also highlighted, that the digital transformation was already going on. The pandemic has increased and accelerated its pace. Okay, so Bindaspra Group stretched its ability to go digital as much as possible by having a strong technological foundation and processes and taking along with the people. Okay, so we had differentiated ourselves by having a readiness with terms of technological foundations. Okay, so as the pandemic arrived, we had to respond very quickly. We have to see in multiple horizon perspective, like what we have to do in the short term and what we have to do in the long term. So short term was to immediately respond to the situation, stabilize the business operations, stabilize the collaborations and the communication between the teams, between the business units. And so the work does not stop, business does not stop. It will hamper more to the business because there was already lockdown was happening. So we had to respond in a very quick way and very optimal way, which the business did. We collaborated. We created the core teams. We had a IT team. We discussed internally from technological perspective what actions we have to take by providing the remote work enablement facility to the users. How we have to make the environment secure, how the users will adopt the culture. Okay, there was a big shift into the culture. Okay, how we have to bring in the awareness between the users about the security. So we had to go reach out to the users, again give them trainings about the awareness of the threats and vulnerabilities which were there, and they could face connecting digitally and during this time, because the attack area had increased by going digital in all the areas. So these were the actions we had taken along with the business units. We required a lot of support from the business side because they were the ultimate users of digital technologies. Okay, we were just enabling the technologies. We were helping them to overcome the issues which had suddenly come due to pandemic, and we collaborated with them and the senior leadership. Wherever we had required their intervention, we asked them to intervene and provide their guidance and their instructions, how to go about and how to deal with the situation. We provided them the tools to communicate in terms of video conferencing, and we provided them the connectivity towards the main and core ERP and CRM applications. So, but there was a strong business IT collaboration happened, which was not that much strong before the pandemic. So, IT is the collaboration with business, and now it becomes very stronger. And in the future, I think this trend will continue. And as I said, from being enabler to the driver, the IT has come into the driver's seat, and it will drive the business and its activities and operations further.
Thank you very much over there, Umesh. Quite a large number of interesting points, but the one point which I like, which after so many cross-border panels, I finally heard, which is big shift in culture. Many of the panelists previously in the other discussions generally have not mentioned this, but I see you bringing this up, and that is a cultural change of working with digital technologies and the empowerment of employees to use digital technologies and to drive their productivity. So Praful and Dr. Sunil, we have very less time, but I do want to quickly get in your input. So Praful, collaboration with business, what do you remember as the most significant part? Go ahead, please.
As the flights were stopped, all the country borders were closed, we had a meeting with our leadership team, and we called that meeting as a ground zero meeting. No aircraft flying. Usually we have a leadership meeting once in a week, but during these times we had almost 3 times a week. So you can understand how much collaboration went within the business teams. We used to discuss about all the new information, new changes within the different business on different countries, regulations, restrictions, some of the approvals. So I think the leadership team collaboration was at the highest level, I would say. And everybody within the team, every business entity within the team were very collaborative to find out solutions for the problems which were never tackled earlier. With the brainstorming and finding out the digital possible ways. There was another aspect was, even though the offices were closed and people are working remotely, as Umesh and Zubair mentioned, the hackers were the most active people during this time. And they were targeting whenever there are more number of holidays or people are not very attentive. There are huge trends in during this period of the different hacking attempts. So I think as IT, we had to fight on multiple aspects. One was on providing IT as a business enabler function to provide innovative solutions to the business. At the same time, protecting all the infrastructure and the IT systems from the cybersecurity. So I believe the interactions between business, peers, government entities has increased a lot, and that has given a new way of working as a public-private partnership or collaboration between different teams.
Very interesting. A very interesting profile, and obviously the government doing its best to keep the aviation industry, civil aviation industry afloat, and of course continuously working with you closely. And we all know about the large number of assets which were on the ground, and now the emphasis is to get the human resources and the assets back into the skies because passengers are on the move. So very fascinating. And Dr. Sunil, if you can in 1 minute or two just quickly capture how you had to work with the student community and the obviously owners of the student community, bring it up, and then I have one more killer question before we close. So go ahead, Dr. Sunil.
Yes, as our fellow panelists have mentioned about the collaboration and how they responded to it. Its academics was also not an exception to this. In fact, this pandemic, this forced situation, have created an environment where everyone was forced to go for out of box thinking. This has created a wonderful opportunity for the people, those who are seriously into academics and who wanted to keep things continue. Just I would like to quote here an example that every year we organize one entrepreneurship summit, where normally we invite entrepreneurs who are in Delhi NCR, because we are based in Delhi NCR region. So we find it easier to get people. This year, last year, it was in August 2020 when this pandemic COVID-19 fear was on its extreme. When we tried when we started planning about this event, we thought, why not? Because since things had to be in online mode, we thought, why not to approach people, those who are in other countries too. And to our surprise, we got so wonderful response. The people from United States, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Poland, means number of European countries we got. And then when we started discussion on this entrepreneurship, now entrepreneurship is something where the local factors are also playing very important role. The value system, which Umeshji was mentioning, that thought process plays very important role. So what we found that in the context we think about entrepreneurship, if context changes, the thought process also gets impacted by it. So at least what we gain from this, that we started looking at different perspective, which makes that local thinking of entrepreneurship to see in global perspective. So those global inputs had really helped not only to faculty, but to the students. See, we have around 32 states in India, and around 1,500 odd people had joined, covering 27 plus states in that event. So the kind of collaboration, the kind of joining hand and working together, it was really something which was amazing. So I think this has opened new doors. This has given taste to the people in academia also, that if they can exploit technology, it can open new doors of opportunities, new doors of joining hands together to conduct joint research, to carry out joint research papers, and lots of things are happening. And last 1 year, we came up with around 7 papers, which we have written. We just recently published a book with Springer, and this is all done jointly. I myself is a part of it. From Poland, there are 2 authors, and from other European countries there. So that join hands together, it really had given a new way of thinking, new way of looking at the collaborative work. So I think this is going to remain there.
Very, very fascinating about how, so obviously with tools like Zoom and other collaboration tools, distance doesn't matter, and it's very easy to share thoughts. So absolutely fascinating discussions coming across. But before we close, I want to ask my killer question about the killer technology. So Umesh, you talked about ERP and CRM in the cloud as being the basis, give you confidence to manage the business. 30 seconds. What will be your killer application 2 years from now? Quick thought on that, please.
Quickly, I picked 2 killer applications or tools. Now, workplace environment has changed. It is not going to be the same as it was before pandemic. So workplace culture, the new workplace culture, based on that, the tools will be developed, like communication tools, remote workplace, and digital tools to handle the jobs remotely. Those kind of tools are much more required than having a physical presence in the office. And secondly, I would say process automation is going to play a big part into that. Process automation is very much required, and it is gaining the momentum as more and more process business wants to automate.
Fantastic. I like the part about the managing the culture and helping the workforce to integrate. That would be a very, very important part. Praful, your take, what would be your killer technology let's say all business comes back and starts scaling, what would you require 24 months from now? Go ahead, Prof.
I think first and foremost importance for our industry and many other in travel industry would be digital identity. I think that will enhance the touchless travel throughout the whole journey, and it will give a better customer experience, better operational experience, even productivity on the government side as well. So I think that is one of the first technology, I would say. And the second, I would again agree with Umesh on the process automation. I think that will continue to leverage in many different areas of the business. And the more automation comes in, the more efficiency within the company will be generated.
Absolutely fascinating. Yes, robotic process automation is here to stay in a big way. It will only go up and up. Zubair, your thoughts, which will be your technology 2 years from now, but only 30 seconds, please. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think my fellow members, they've already mentioned that the process automation, it's a yes everywhere. Naturally, because this would not only reduce the cost, but again would help that if we come across any other situation like this, so we can make our business on the go. Secondly, we are working on the paperless and digital identification of a customer. So this is something very interesting, and this would not only help our staff to develop a culture of wasting a paper, which is very much there across the world, and we should move towards it, but would help us to reduce the cost of organization to many-fold. And digital identification, there are some things which we can take an initiatives, but we are bound by the regulation. So luckily, the regulator or the regulations, the identifier, the NADRA over here, who is the main database for identification, they have allowed us, or the banks or the industry, to go for the digital identification of a customer. So I'm sure these two things are very much there, and across the board, we are agreed to it.
Very interesting over there, Zubair, especially the digital and the move to paperless. That is pretty much a high requirement now. Dr. Sunil, closing notes from you. You mentioned about the tracking the eyes. I think artificial intelligence, machine learning, biometrics of students would be a key part. Sorry, go ahead, please. What would be the killer technologies for you? Go ahead.
I think, I think in next 2 to 3 years down the lane, I see the applications which will combine 4 pillars of technology, which will include cloud, AI, and machine learning, which will create enormous volume of data. So data analytics is going to play a very important role, which will be well supported for distribution of this dissemination of created and analyzed information through fast mobile networks. The saying of Alvin Toffler is going to be proven correct: learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because the way technology is moving forward, we will see different technologies, different applications coming on faster pace, giving way to new kind of application where different technologies will be converging and giving birth to different new technologies. So learning, unlearning, and relearning is going to be the key.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sunil. I'm happy to register in one of your courses wherever I can do this whole thing in one shot: learn, unlearn, and relearn. Happy to join your institute. So with that, with this absolutely fascinating thought leadership from all our 4 panelists here, I'd like to come to the end of this cross-border panel discussion. And on behalf of Global CIO Forum, the World CIO 200 sponsor, partners, and the panelists here, Zubair, Praful, Umesh, and Dr. Sunil, I thank all the online attendees for sitting through these 45 plus minutes of absolutely engaging content, and look forward to seeing you once again. Goodbye, and thank you very much.
Again, a thank you to all the panelists who joined us from different geographies for this fantastic panel discussion. And thank you so much, Arun. Now with that, let's move to the next session with Shrihari Monengi, Territory Account Manager from Infoblogs. He'll be shedding some light on 2021 outlook. Over to you, Shrihari.
Very good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste to all our customers who have joined today's event. So let me take this opportunity to greet and make sure that everyone is all well, safe and healthy. So before going into the session, myself Sri Hari from Infoblox Qatar. So I represent sales. Now let me thank to the fellow speakers who are part of this today's summit. And I take here from Infoblox point of view. So let's go into the presentation on what we're going to talk about. And this is nothing but one of the recent experience that have come across. Probably that experience will help everyone how we think and how we correlate in the real world. So let me share my screen on the slides and take you from there. So today we are going to talk about Zero Trust model and DNS. And the concept here is basically to demystify the concepts of advancing security on infrastructure. So let's go on to the agenda. So what is Zero Trust and why Zero Trust and why now? And how is Zero Trust model and DNS are correlated? So let's go the first one. If you look at from a DNS point of view, Infoblox is the industry leaders when it comes to the DDI. We are having almost like 53% of market share. So that's a pretty impressive number. Okay. Apart from that, we are present in Fortune 1000, 2000. So right now we have global as well as many regional references that can really help you and to showcase the value proposition that Infoblox can do your esteemed organizations. Now, what is Zero Trust? So, and how do we do it as cybersecurity best practices? So let's go into this. Now, recently I have traveled from India, so I can share you I will not say it's a hassle, but there are a lot of things that we have gone through, especially when it comes to traveling, So we need to have a PCR test 48 hours before. Then you need to have one more PCR test at the airport. A lot of checkings and the regular checkings, boarding, passport, valid visa, travel documents, luggage screening and everything. So we will share how we are talking about a traveler experience with respect to Zero Trust. So the very first initiation could be a travel documents, booking, baggage weight, that's what you see. So it's nothing but validating the user and the device. Then the second, what we talk about is passport control and clearance. Here we talk about control and minimizing the application access. So, okay, this gentleman is only supposed to access these, or is he able to travel or not? The security checkpoints is basically the screenings. So that we refer to the foundational securities, just as a DNS security, how do we secure our DNS? The next is baggage screening. So we correlate baggage screening with data protection. So what's going inside the data, and is it a legitimate traffic or a malicious traffic? The next comes the CCTV surveillance. So we can obviously anyone can be monitored where this particular gentleman or an asset where it has been left. That is nothing but visibility. We try to correlate where exactly this devices are, or what are the activities this particular user is doing. So you can track down, which is nothing but reporting. So next is boarding. So during the boarding, what we try to do is micro-segmentation. So micro-segmentation, we try to create dynamic access lists or access lists and groups or whatever. The last one is airport security police. Airport security police can come anywhere within the terminal and take his corrective actions or whatever that is required, or verifications. So that is nothing but we integrate with SIM and SOAR, and we simplify in terms of automation also. So this is where we'll go more in detail on this explaining. So let's go into the next slides. Why now? This is more important. If you have noticed, the network has become borderless. People were talking about borderless from a long time, saying that yes, borderless. So what people used to do, probably they used to be in the same country or same terrain, and they used to operate work from home, but that was not a mandatory option. But with the COVID coming into situation, the pandemic situations and everything, everyone is literally work from home. So can I trust the user? Yes. Is it my corporate asset? Yes. But where is it coming from? We cannot. So how do you secure them? My footprint, which is within the organization, has gone behind the terrains. I used to work from India, so we know what type of security that needs to be taken care when it comes to the end user who is literally outside the terrain, and what assurance that has been given and what access that needs to be provided, that is absolutely taken care. And Infoblox has that solution which can really mitigate the risks. So let's go. This is the old concept, where people used to go to a service provider, ask for the MPLS lease line, and club all the branches to the nearest data center or to the headquarters, and from there they go to the internet. I have a perfect control. I don't have to worry, because any traffic that is coming to headquarters and then going up, this is absolutely fine. Now, with the present situation and with the type of applications that are coming up, which are everything is SaaS-based applications or cloud-based applications, how do you see that? So this is the new architecture that you might be seeing all across. And on top of this, people have gone to their respective houses and working. Plus, on top of this, we're increasing BOADs and IoTs. These are unmeasured security. So these particular things also needs to be addressed along with this decentralized option, or what we call the new architecture, which is based on SD-WAN. Right. So SD-WAN is booming up. It is coming up. It's coming into every verticals and every accounts and showing the value proposition, connecting directly to internet and getting all the services that are really required. Now, why today? Why now? Okay. If you have listened or observed that during the COVID pandemic situation, there were a lot of attacks, cyber attacks, which have been being spread across multiple countries and everything. So the surface has doubled. The surface has doubled. We can see the risk is going on. Plus, on top of this, we don't have a dedicated location because people are spread. How do you control them? The security inefficiency has increased, either it's from architecture or reactive point of view. So it is all CIO approach. The next is it has increased the burden on security operations team, because even there also very few are doing from office and rest all are work from home. So the burden has increased on them. The security needs to be mitigated. How do we do that? Because it couldn't be done. So a lot of proper corrective actions were not taken in place. But if you have some tool or some technology which in place, probably it will help in correlation with your SIM, integration with your SIM and SOAR, and integration with your next other security appliances within organizations. So how do we do that? So can Infoblox value add in this particular aspects? This is what we're going to talk about now. Now, how do we correlate between Zero Trust and DNS? Again, we're going back to the old model, the traveler experience, where you could see that we have correlated from boarding all the way to from checking your boarding pass and everything all the way to till takeoff. The same way we'll give you a comparison or an explanation how it is going to happen. So if you look at, we are considering the airline as an Infoblox first class. That's our privilege. Our destination is secure organizations, and obviously the gate is nothing but the port, which is port 53. So it's a UDP 53. So let's go one by one again. So we have been talking about validate users and devices. So we need to make sure that a valid user is accessing. That is nothing but when we say this is basically DHCP fingerprint. The fingerprint is basically identifying the type of OS you are running, that this particular device is associated to this particular Active Directory user, and there is a Blocks One agent, which is basically a DNS firewall cloud. You have three options: on-prem, cloud, and hybrid. So this is one of the agent which will be residing on a thin client, which will be residing on the laptop. The next comes is control and minimizing application access. This is basically threat intelligence feeds, content categorization, or custom RPCs. You have your own custom RPCs that can be added to the threat intelligence feed, and then it can go to entire security platforms that you have within your organizations. Fundamental security, foundational security. So we are talking about DNS firewalls, advanced DNS protection, basically protecting the organization from any external threats. So that's where advanced DNS protection comes in, and make sure that the attacks have been very well addressed at the external level itself. The next comes is data protection. So what we're talking about specifically, any kind of infiltration or exfiltration, okay? And how do we mitigate such exfiltration and infiltrations? This is basically to make sure that port 53, which is a unsecure, UDP port, so that particular port cannot be scanned by any other security players as much as we really scan, because that's our area. That's where we focus on, and that's where we make sure that a perfect security is in place to your organization. Visibility, as mentioned, we are talking about the reporting, particular reporting, where you can identify this user, or let's say this DNS query specifically. You can get the entire history of that particular activity. Okay, so next we are talking about microsegment networks. So as mentioned, it could be a DNS views, group policies, ACI, GSLB, wherever you can do the segmentation using the help of infoblogs. And the last question is the cement SOAR. So they integrate across all your security platforms or network infrastructure, the same way what we're talking about airport police. So looking at here, we, as part of SIM and SOAR integrations, we have ecosystem integration, we have tied threat intelligence data exchange and enforcements, right? So these are part of the SIM and SOAR automations, what we're talking about. So overall, if you see, right from entry all the way till exit in an airport, departure, there is a systematic approach that has been taken by the airlines or by the airport authorities. Even though you are a genuine legitimate user, at every checkpoint, right from entering into the airport all the way to the gate or entering inside the flight, you will be verified again and again and again with the same information. But the security check, what has been done at the first instance versus the security check which has been done at the last instance is different, because they verify, they add more on headers, and they verify that yes, he is a legitimate user, he has a valid visa, whatnot. The same way we make sure right from the user where he is residing, on what device he is operating, and what is the IP, and where is the location. If it is within the organization, we can tell you the location also, all the way till where is he accessing, what is he doing on that. Okay, if it is a good traffic, we allow. If it is a bad traffic, we quarantine and inform NAC, or we integrate with your next generation firewalls, or we integrate with your SIM and make sure that the perfect correlation or action is in place. That is really important to make sure that no risk is, I would say that the risk is very well addressed, okay, and it is mitigated. That's very important. So going back to the national security agencies, as part of the US national security agencies, they have generically studied the market, how the cybersecurity is going towards, and they have created certain kind of prerequisites to make sure that any organization wants to follow. There are certain criteria which will make sure that this is the compliance of NSA, okay, National Security Agency. If you look at this particular slide, you can see everything is green. That means Infoblox solution is perfectly compliant. There is not even a single sector or requirement which is unaddressed by Infoblox. So if you have Infoblox security and Infoblox solution in place, by default you are complying to US national security agencies. So there are many countries across the globe who do follow, because they believe that they have certain best practices in place, and they make sure that if we comply, then obviously as part of compliance, they're well enough to make sure that we are a protected organization. So Infoblox can assure you that yes, once you have something called NSA, or you can blindly go with it, yes, this is a product or technology which by default complies to all the requirements of National Security Agency guidelines. Now, this is one of the good slides that I really like, what we call is national ecosystem integrations. In security world, it is always, or it has to be always heterogeneous. Why we say heterogeneous? I can go on a network as simple as homogeneous network. I will go with one brand and make sure that my entire infrastructure, switching, routing is from one particular brand. But for security, no, it shouldn't be like that. It has to be heterogeneous. I need to see different technologies playing different roles in making sure that they're talking to each other and they're collaborating. That's really important. Okay. So Infoblox is such a fantastic player. Guess what? We will be part of the orchestration. We know what feed has to go in what format to the specific security vendor. This is one. We share the threat intelligence to multiple security products. Number two. Number three, we know what type of action that needs to be initiated because there is an API already in place. With NAC solution, when should I quarantine? Based on the DNS pattern or queries that has been initiated. So we take their corrective actions. If we see that this is a malicious traffic, we quarantine on behalf of NAC. The same goes with next generation firewalls, where we try to create, or where we create a dynamic access list saying that any communication going back and forth to this particular destination, deny. So that simplifies the operations of your IT security team and increases the security efficiency within your organization. So that will really help you to bridge these silos. So it's no more a silos infrastructure. So we are not telling that you don't have to replace any of the security products, but on top of the security infrastructure, what we have, we integrate with almost like 40 different vendors, and each one has their own value proposition that you can really look into this. So that's a fantastic thing that can be really taken. So probably we can have a detailed session based on your requirements and address that, how we integrate with NAC, how we integrate with SIM, how we integrate with endpoint, how we integrate with vulnerability management, or you need to have your own tip apart from the threat intelligence what we provide. So a lot more, you know. So this is a fantastic slide where I really like. We can spend more time on this. That will give a fantastic integration. We complement, not compete with other security players in your organization. So one of the slides is, yes, you have threat intelligence from Infoblox and you have threat intelligence from many other places. All goes to the tide, and tide will correlate and then sends that particular into specific formats to all the security appliances within an organization. It's a cyclic approach. There is one good part which is called Dossier. Dossier is an investigation tool where you enter a domain's name and basically it will tell you the entire history of this particular domain. Where was it created? When was it created? Who is, what are the threats associated with this particular domain as on date? Who are the vendors so far identified that this particular domain has following threats? And is there any mitigation that had happened? Maybe a new patch or a new announcement from that particular domain. So this entire thing is part of Dossier search engine. So it's a malware search engine for all the DNS. So as a summary, what we want to tell you that Infoblox provides the foundational security, okay, and supports key aspects that are really required for zero trust deployments. So we could very well complement and make sure that we are part of the zero trust infrastructure for your organization, and we really help you in mitigations. So this is what I want to pass from my side. So thank you for all your time. The last thing which I really want to address is the threat intelligence. Kindly do subscribe to infoblox.com/cyber threat intelligence, where you will be getting any cyber threat that has been triggered anywhere. So you will get the report on what events or what was the malware talking about and how do we mitigate. So it's a perfect threat insight, I would say, that will really help you and your organization to make sure that you are updated with the latest threat intelligence. So thank you all once again. Thanks for your time and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Hari, for all the amazing details and hope to see you in the finale. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we move ahead to the award distribution. A little bit more insight about the award categories. We have 4 categories. The first one is the Legend CIO, where they're awarded for lifetime achievement. The Master CIO has an experience of more than 15 to 20 years and unparalleled technological experiences in their career lifespan. Third, the Legend CIO, they have experience of 10 to 15 years in multiple domains. The fourth is Next Generation CIO, who has the experience of 5 to 10 years and have undertaken mammoth projects in less span of time. Let's see the winners of the World CIO 200 Summit from Oman, Kuwait, and Qatar. Congratulations to all the winners. With that, we come to the end of the wonderful Oman, Kuwait, and Qatar edition today. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation and the key takeaways. And once again, before signing off, we would like to thank all the speakers and panelists for joining us today. Big shout out to all our partners, Infoblogs, F5, Exclusive Network, Laserfish, Veritas, Finis, and Arkin. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at our next round, which will be our European Union edition on 29 September. Till then, good day, stay safe, and stay secure. Thank you.